It'll take a while for us all to recover. But you've... Of course. May you keep...
Not everyone subscribes to what is mine is yours, it seems.
It'll take a while for us all to recover. Of course. May you keep balance.
Baldur's Gate. At least it's some kind of civilization.
I do miss the gate, though. The Elf Song Tavern, sunset over Grey Harbor, fried fish at the docks.
Drunk young patriarchs, naked in the fountains. Ah, civilization.
Not a chance I'll fit in there.
So, Will, what was the Blade of Frontier's toughest kill?
Ah, it was a great scrap. A hungry minotaur with a hankering for human flesh. An axe-bearing mountain of fur she was. Gave me a nasty scar.
I hope you don't mind if I don't ask to see it. So, Will with a Y. Why?
Why? That's right.
But why?
Why? A great uncle's name, my father said. But I just figured he couldn't spell.
I was hoping you'd come to chat. What do you need? If you're sure. As you like.
Well met. Are you sure? The blades and just...
Well, hello. What can I do for you? Oh, darling, I'm hurt. Well...
The dog is unable to speak through the small bag he holds in his mouth.
I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. All I know is I thought of you when I saw it.
Master. Friend. I stayed with him until I knew he was gone. I'll never forget him. But I'm glad to have met you.
I was hoping you'd come to chat. What do you need? All right, some...
Oakfather's blessings to you. Hopefully. I've chosen a successor as first druid. Francesca of the High Forest. Precisely. Who indeed? The Grove needs to move beyond the mistakes of the past. What it needs is This is why I chose Francesca. She will restore simplicity and purity to the Grove in my absence. Contrary to how some think of us, we druids can play politics when necessary. It's had the whole region around Moonrise Towers, and those who remained are shadow-cursed. If you don't die, we have to get to Moonrise. But the less time we spend in its blighted surrounds, the better. Precious little. But I'm quite certain it can still... I studied one up close. A drow attacked me and I defended myself. Hideous, but fascinating. Like nothing else in those illithid creatures threaten the natural order. There's also the Shadow Curse. I helped overthrow Ketheric Thorm and his Dark Justiciars years ago. But I failed to... If I can join you and get close to Moonrise, perhaps I can lift this curse, just as you find... Well, there's hardly anyone left to share the responsibility. What Ketheric Thorm unleashed is not something that nature can undo by its... I studied the Shadow Curse for years. But to truly understand it and stop it, I must reach it, perhaps. But we'll need to get... Put it from your mind for now. Once we near the curse, then there will be more to be said. Precisely. Then perhaps I could have done something. About both, but in my eagerness, I put far too much faith in the abilities of Aradin and his band. We didn't even get close. Wonderfully. If I'm honest, I'll miss my books. That I can find all the wisdom they contain out here, firsthand. Is that so? Well, nature does abhor waste. I will keep watch, thank you.
My condition likes being ignored as little as I do. I must consume another artifact. And soon. Thank you. Good gods. I don't know what to make of this. 3 artifacts is a positive glut of... Listen, I need to speak to you, to all of you. It would be unconscionable of me to remain silent. I might just be about to remedy that. You have to know who I was. You have to know who I really am. What I am is a walking shadow of the promise I once held. I'm what one might call a wizard prodigy. Who from an early age could not only control the weave, but compose it, much like a musician or a poet. Such was my skill that it earned me the attention of the mother of magic herself, the Lady of Mysteries, the goddess Mystra. She revealed herself to me and she became my teacher. In time, she became my muse, and later even my lover. It's fair to say her intimacy is not easily won. Nevertheless, I did. We enjoyed each other's company. Body, mind, and soul. But even so, I desired more. You see, no matter how powerful a wizard we mortals can become, we never scratch more than the surface of the weave. Mystra keeps us in check. There are boundaries she doesn't let us cross, yet every time I was with her, I stood on the precipice, gazing into the wonders that lay beyond. I sought to cross her boundaries. Perhaps. But enticements beyond the perimeters of mortality are powerful motivators. I tried to convince her. I pouted. I pleaded. Swore my ambition was only to serve her better. She only smiled and told me to be contented. Inconceivable as it seems to me now, I shared a bed with a goddess, yet I wasn't satisfied. So I sought to prove myself worthy to her instead. We come now to the crux of my folly. Shall I share the story behind it, or would you rather head straight to its sordid finale? Very well. Here goes. Once upon a very long time ago, a mighty lord lived in a tower. A flying tower, to be precise. I'll save his history for another time, but the gist of it is that he sought to usurp the goddess of magic so that he could become a god himself. And he almost managed, but not quite. And his entire empire, Netheril, came crashing down around him as he turned to stone. The magic that was unleashed that day was phenomenal. Roiling like the prime chaos that outdates creation. Even the weave itself could not withstand the onslaught. It fractured, then shattered, and all magic was lost to the mortal realms, until the day Mystra returned. She restored the weave, reuniting all its scattered shards. Or so I thought. Until, in the course of my studies, I learned of a book. A Netherese tome in which a piece of the fractured weave had been sealed beyond her reach. What if, I thought, what if, after all this time, I could return this lost part of herself to the goddess? I don't discredit my reasoning. Alas, that my execution was rather less sound. I was certain that this deed of raw power, draped in romance, would convince Mystra to take me by the hand and welcome me into her hitherto forbidden domains. I was mistaken. I obtained the fabled book and took it into my study. As for what happened next... Here. Place your hand over my heart. Let me show you.
You feel the tadpole quiver as you realize Gale is letting you into the dark. You see through Gale's eyes, staring down the corridors of a dread memory. A book, bound, then suddenly opened. Inside there are no pages, Only a swirling mass of blackest weave that pounces. Its teeth, its claws, it's unstoppable as it digs through and becomes part of you. And gods, is it ever hungry.
Thankfully, the moment I absorbed the fragment wasn't enough to kill me outright. It was only the beginning. This Netherese blight, this orb, for lack of a better word, is balled up inside my chest. And it needs to be fed. As long as I absorb traces of the weave from potent enough sources, it remains quiet. Were it ever to fully destabilize, however. I will erupt. I don't know the exact magnitude of the eruption, but given my studies of Netherese magic, I'd say even a fragment as small as the one I carry, it'd level a city the size of Waterdeep. We might chance upon a king's collection of magical artifacts around the corner. We might cross paths with a miracle round the bend. Then again, we might not. All of this, it must feel like a betrayal. Say the word, and we'll part ways. That is... You truly are a soul that steals my own. I thank you all. I understand if you... I stand at a precipice, but it... Now. Even up... Go ahead. I'm listening. The very same. Karsus was perhaps the most powerful wizard that ever lived. The child who would be a god, the elves called him. And he tried. With a spell of his own devising, he endeavored to usurp in one fell swoop the power of the goddess of magic. Mistril, she was called then. Imagine what it must have felt like. To be a god. To know yourself, to be untouchable. To be mistaken. As Karsus aimed his spell at her, she began to unravel. And with her, the entire weave. Too late did he realize what he had unleashed. It would have been the end of everything had not Mistril sacrificed herself. The goddess of magic is all magic. By dying, the entire weave was lost, and the spell that challenged a god failed. It was the end of Mistril. The end of Karsus, and the end of an entire civilization. As the child who would be a god was turned to stone, his empire came crashing down around him. The floating cities of Netheril were no more. An event that came to be known as Karsus's folly. Quite so. Now, so many centuries later, I try to follow in the footsteps of Karsus. Not to destroy Mystra, but to prove my love for her. I tried to control only a fraction of the magic that was unleashed that fateful day. I merely sought to return one tiny diamond to an imperfect crown. Gale's folly, one might call it. History, repetition. It's the way things go. If it should ever come to that, if I ever know I am no longer able to stop it, I will do anything I can to ensure no one but me pays for my mistakes. I will find the remotest place on the surface of Faerun, or perhaps far below in the depths of the Underdark. I will await that death, alone. I promise I will not betray your trust. If worst comes to worst, I will be long gone before the curtain falls. With...
Yes. It is done. Well, that ends not as bad as it could have.